You'd think a man would know when the end was coming. There'd be signs, right? Silence where there used to be laughter. Cold shoulders where once there were warm arms. But no, some endings come fast, like a punch to the teeth. And for me, it came on a Tuesday. I came home early from work, thought I'd surprise the kids, maybe catch dinner with the family before the usual chaos. But when I pulled into the driveway, something was off. Her car was gone. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the silence. The kind that screams at you before you even reach for the doorknob. The lock didn't turn. I checked again. Tried the spare under the flower pot. Same thing. No give. No welcome. Then I saw it. A plain white envelope taped to the door with my name scrawled in her handwriting. Not darling. Not even hey. Just my damn name. Inside, one sheet of paper. No explanations. No apologies. Just a line that said, "Don't come back. This is no longer your home. The kids are with your mother for now." And scribbled underneath, like an afterthought, "I'll destroy you." There was no mistaking it. That was her message. Her voice. And I swear, the ink might as well have been dripping in venom. I stood there, jaw locked, heart pounding, rage boiling so hot I thought I'd tear the whole damn door off its hinges. But I didn't. I didn't make a scene. I didn't shout. I got back in the car and drove to my mother's. And that's where I found my boys, curled up on the couch, confused, scared. My mother looked at me like she already knew. "She dropped them off," she said, voice brittle. "Didn't even come in. Just left." I didn't cry. I don't know how to anymore. Something in me had cracked. And what leaked out wasn't sadness. It was resolve. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up digging through paperwork, messages, anything that could explain this ambush. And the deeper I went, the uglier it got. Her family, they were all in on it. Her sister, that conniving snake, had whispered things behind my back for years. Her mother? She never liked me. I was too simple for their bloodline, not good enough for the family name. And her father? Hell, he'd barely looked me in the eye since the day I put a modest ring on his princess's finger. They saw me as a stepping stone, a tool, a wallet with legs. And once I stopped being convenient, they kicked me out like garbage. But they forgot one thing: I don't give up. Not when it comes to my kids. And definitely not when someone threatens to destroy me. By the end of the week, my lawyer had the petition filed. Custody, property, everything. And when the court date came, I walked in with every piece of truth she thought I'd never find. She showed up all fire and fury, tight dress, practiced tears, crocodile emotions. But when she saw the evidence in my hands, her face went pale, like someone had yanked the curtain back and she saw, for the first time, what I'd become. Not broken, not bitter, prepared. And that, my friend, was just the beginning. You can always tell who's lying by who gets loud first. She walked into that courtroom like it was opening night, and she was the star. Hair curled to perfection. Designer suit, probably picked out by her sister. And the moment she saw me sitting there, calm, collected, ready, her expression cracked for just a second. Then came the act. Tears before the judge even asked her name. "I'm just trying to protect my children," she sobbed. "He's emotionally unstable, Your Honor. Controlling. Cool." My lawyer, God bless Miranda Patel, cool as ice and twice as sharp, barely flinched. "Your Honor," she said, sliding a thick folder across the bench. "We have compiled text messages, video surveillance footage, and eyewitness statements to contradict the plaintiff's claims. Mr. Reeves has had sole custody of the children for the past 6 weeks with no incident. Additionally, we have a signed statement from his mother, the children's temporary guardian, confirming the defendant's abandonment." The judge raised an eyebrow. That was when the show started to falter. Her hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Her father leaned forward, whispering something in her ear. Probably some damage control. Didn't matter. Because the judge opened that folder, and I watched the color drain from her face. See, what she didn't know was that while she was out there crafting a narrative, I'd been documenting everything. Every missed school pickup. Every night she left the kids with my mom claiming emergency meetings. Every transaction on the joint account where her shopping habit bled us dry while I picked up extra shifts to keep the lights on. And then there were the messages. She wasn't smart enough to hide them. Screenshots from her private group chat with her sister and cousin, laughing at how easy it had been to lock me out, how she was going to bleed him dry and leave him begging. One gem even said, "Wait till the court sees what a mess he is. I'll play the victim. Let the idiot squirm." Yeah, That one hit different when the judge read it out loud. The courtroom was quiet, tense. Her lawyer, a guy who probably got his degree off the back of a cereal box, fumbled through objections that went nowhere. She kept glancing at her parents, and even they had started shifting in their seats like maybe, just maybe, they'd hitched their wagon to the wrong train. Meanwhile, I sat there. Not smug. Not vindictive. Just steady. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. About standing tall for the kids she thought she could use as pawns. About showing the court who the real manipulator was, and who the father was that never stopped fighting. When the judge finally spoke, his voice cut through the air like a blade. Until further review, I am awarding temporary full custody to Mr. Reeves. The plaintiff will be granted supervised visitation pending psychological evaluation and a full financial audit. Supervised visitation. Her mouth dropped open like she'd been slapped. That courtroom, which she walked into as her stage, had turned into a mirror, and she did not like what it showed her. And me? I stood, buttoned my jacket, and nodded. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was done. The house was too quiet. After court, I drove the boys back to the rental. It was nothing fancy, two-bedroom place out near the edge of town, but it had what we needed. Walls, heat, peace. They ran upstairs to their room, and I just stood there in the kitchen, hands still on my keys. The fridge hummed. The ceiling fan creaked lazily above me. And for the first time in weeks, no one was screaming. No threats. No manipulation. Just the kind of silence you forget to appreciate until your whole life gets detonated. I poured myself a glass of water and stared at my own reflection in the window. Looked older. Sharper. More tired, sure, but something else too. Something that hadn't been there before. Resolve. Because as far as I'd come, I knew better than to relax. People like her, people who treat marriage like a stage and kids like props, they don't go down easy. She'd been embarrassed in court, sure, but she still had claws. And if her last text said, "I will destroy you," I believed her. I just didn't care anymore. A few days later, the phone call started. Unknown numbers. Blocked. Then her sister tried calling from her office line. I didn't answer. But the voicemail, Jesus. You think this is over? You humiliated her in court. She's your wife, you pig. You just made a mistake that's going to cost you more than you know. Click. I didn't delete it. I saved it. Forwarded it to my lawyer, actually. Patel called me back 10 minutes later. Let them dig their own graves, she said. We're not playing defense anymore. She wasn't kidding. That week, we filed for an emergency financial review. Turns out, while I'd been paying the mortgage and utilities on a home I no longer had keys to, she'd been siphoning money into a separate account under her cousin's name. Boutique trips. Spas. Even a down payment on a new SUV. All traceable. All documented. And all coming to light. The hardest part wasn't the legal battles. It wasn't even watching her fake the role of mother in supervised visits, acting like she'd read about parenting in a magazine and wanted credit for it. No. The hardest part was looking into my boy's eyes and trying to explain why mommy wasn't around. My youngest, he's 5, asked if mommy went to jail. I told him no. I told him sometimes adults forget how to love each other the right way, and when that happens, they need space to remember how to be kind again. He nodded, serious. Then said, so that's why you don't yell. I nearly broke down right there. But I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. Because beneath all the theatrics, all the mess, I knew the next phase was coming. Custody was temporary. Finances were just paper. What she'd go for next would be character. And if she wanted to smear me, well, let her try. Because I wasn't the man she married. That guy was patient. Tolerant. Naive. No? I had proof. I had a plan. And I had something she never would again, my son's trust. It started with a Facebook post. Not from her. She was smarter than that. But from her cousin, that greasy little snake who once told me at a barbecue I was too boring to cheat. Which is probably why she married you. Real charmer, that guy. The post wasn't a direct hit. Just enough to stir the pot. Isn't it sad when a man pretends to be a great father, just to cover what he really is? Some people wear masks. Just saying. Hashtag protect the kids. 37 comments in 2 hours. All the usual crowd chiming in. Her sister. Her friends from that yoga cult. Even her boss, who once asked me if I could fix her garbage disposal sometime soon. Wink wink. They were all so damn brave behind a screen. Then came the messages. Anonymous emails to my workplace. Someone accusing me of erratic behavior, temper issues, and this one was rich, manipulative parenting tactics. Some HR bot forwarded the complaint. It was unsigned, unverified, and anonymous, but it still earned me a sit-down with my manager. Good thing I'd already briefed them. Showed the court order. Let them know an ex was trying to make noise. My boss just nodded. She picked the wrong guy, he said. Do your job. We've got your back. She didn't know it yet, but her play had already failed. Meanwhile, my boys were watching everything. They weren't blind. They saw her at those supervised visits, smiling too hard, acting like she hadn't spent months treating them like luggage she forgot to pick up from the carousel. My oldest was the first to speak up. One night, just before bed, he looked up from his math homework and said, "Dad, why does Mommy talk like she's pretending?" I didn't answer at first, just swallowed the knot in my throat and sat beside him. Sometimes, I said slowly, people pretend because they're scared of being honest, even grown-ups. He nodded, then added, I like it better when you're just quiet and real. Out of the mouths of babes. I stayed quiet during the storm. That was the plan. Let her build her fantasy, her network of whispers and half-truths. Let her cousin post. Let her sister spread it around like perfume at a funeral. Because the truth? It doesn't need to shout. It shows up. In court. In documents. In footage. In the way your sons hug you without fear. In the school reports that show perfect attendance and packed lunches. And when her lawyer requested an emergency hearing to modify custody due to concerning behavior, the judge looked at the file, sighed, and said, "Where's the evidence?" They didn't have any. Because there wasn't any. After the hearing, her cousin made the mistake of texting me directly. "Enjoy this round. You won't win the next. She's just getting started." I stared at that message, then replied with just one line. "You should tell her to stop digging. That hole's starting to look like a grave." After that pathetic attempt in court, she disappeared for about 3 days. Long enough for her ego to bruise, not long enough to think twice. When she resurfaced, it wasn't with apologies or admissions. It was with a new angle. She filed for spousal support, said she'd given up career opportunities to support our family, claimed I controlled the finances, locked her out, made her financially dependent. Which was funny, considering I had receipts showing she hadn't paid for a single household bill in 2 years. Not the mortgage, not the power, not even the damn Netflix account. Her career was a seasonal job at a boutique she quit 3 times because they didn't appreciate her vision. Her vision, apparently, involved long lunches and longer flirtations with her boss, who, lucky for me, had a wife more vindictive than I'll ever be. She found out about the vision meetings in the back room and mailed me screenshots before I even asked. So when Patel got that support claim, she didn't even blink. "Let's subpoena her spending records," she said with a smirk. "And let's check into her side gigs too. I've got a feeling her OnlyFans earnings weren't claimed on last year's taxes." That one hit me like a left hook. "You're joking," I muttered. "Oh, I wish I was," she said. "But don't worry. We won't have to touch it. Just let the IRS do their job." Meanwhile, the boys and I were finally finding a rhythm. Mornings were peaceful. Breakfast meant cereal, cartoons, and no screaming from the other room. We actually had conversations. My youngest started drawing again. My oldest? He laughed. I hadn't heard him really laugh in months. They were healing, which meant I was too. But I didn't let my guard down. I kept the camera logs, the voicemails, the texts. Every tactic she used to make me look unfit just made her look unstable. And when I sent over the forensic audit we'd done on the joint account, showing she'd been moving money to her mother's name months before she kicked me out, the silence from her legal team was deafening. But that wasn't the real bombshell. The real one came from her work email. See, she used the same password for everything. And that boutique she worked for? She'd once logged in on my home computer. The system remembered, and I never logged out. Inside that inbox were 3 things. Her resume, sent to multiple companies, dated weeks before she said she sacrificed her career for the kids. A string of flirtatious emails with a potential investor in her wellness brand. Most of them during weekends she told me she was visiting her aunt. And finally, an attachment. A prenup proposal she'd been drafting with her sister long before we were even married. She'd planned the exit before she ever said yes. I didn't confront her. I printed it, filed it, and attached it to our countermotion. Let her lie. Let her spin. Let her walk into court in heels and crocodile tears. Because this time, she wasn't just up against a husband trying to survive. She was up against a father who'd stopped playing nice. They say divorce is just the death of a fantasy. If that's true, then this was the autopsy. The court had granted us a discovery window, a chance for both sides to submit evidence, review finances, communications, and assess each other's claims. Most people treat it like a formality. I treated it like a battlefield. Because she hadn't just betrayed me. She'd weaponized the system, painted me like a deadbeat, claimed I was emotionally unstable, and worst of all, tried to smear me as a neglectful father. No mercy, no shame, just pure, poisonous strategy. But the truth? It doesn't need to scream. It just needs to exist. And I had it. In black and white. Organized. Cross-referenced. Unshakable. Her lawyer tried to delay. Claimed their documentation was incomplete. So Patel filed a motion to compel. The judge gave them 72 hours. What we got back was a circus. Bank statements with missing pages, redacted text threads, vague references to emotional hardship, and wellness retreats. They thought it was enough. It wasn't. Because I had everything they didn't disclose, every spot charge, every Venmo transfer to her cousin labeled childcare during the months our kids were with me. Then we submitted our files. Timeline of spending. GPS logs. Eyewitness statements. Her social media posts geotagged at hotels she claimed she never visited. Texts between her and her business coach that made 50 Shades look like a bedtime story. One email even said, "He'll never know. He's too busy playing Dad of the Year." The judge called it deeply concerning. That's court language for you just blew your own foot off. A week before the next hearing, I got a call from Patel. She's panicking, she said. They're floating a settlement offer. I waited. She keeps custody of the house. You get the car, full custody of the kids, and she wants $500 a month in alimony. I laughed. Actually laughed. Tell them no, I said. Tell them I'm not giving her a dime, and I want every lie she told on the record. Patel didn't even flinch. You're finally getting the hang of this, she said. The morning of the hearing, I dressed in the same suit I wore to our wedding. Still fit. A little looser now. Funnier how that works. She walked in wearing white. I don't know if it was some twisted callback or just her delusion bleeding through, but it didn't matter. Because that day, she wasn't in control. She was exposed. And when Patel stood up and read the sequence of events, laid out every transaction, quoted her own messages, played back the voicemails, and dropped the timeline of custody from day one, her face drained like water down a sink. She wasn't pale anymore. She was empty. No foundation. No facade. Just a woman who thought manipulation was strength. The judge didn't issue a final ruling that day. He said he needed to review the integrity of her statements before making decisions about property or visitation. But when court adjourned, she didn't look at me. Not once. And I didn't need her to. Because the truth had finally spoken. And it said everything I'd been waiting to hear. She started showing up unannounced. First, it was outside my youngest school. Sitting in her car. Sunglasses on, parked across the street like she was casing the place. The school called me, asked if the custody terms had changed. They hadn't. So I forwarded them the court order. Again. The second time, she left a stuffed animal on our doorstep. One the boys hadn't touched in a year. A note pinned to it, her handwriting all shaky. Tell them Mommy misses them. They need to know I love them. Touching. Almost made me forget the months she didn't even call. Almost. I didn't respond. I didn't escalate. I documented. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's this. A man with a calm hand and hard evidence will always win the long game. Her lawyer filed a motion for unsupervised visitation the next week. Claimed she was in therapy, stable, committed to rebuilding trust. The court ordered a psychologist evaluation. Neutral party. Third opinion. I showed up for my interview with receipts. Attendance logs. Emotional wellness reports from the school counselor. Even drawings the boys made. One showed our house, just the three of us. Big smiles, blue sky. She wasn't in it. Not out of malice. Just reality. She failed her evaluation. Not clinically. Not anything dramatic. Just unstable. Defensive. Uncooperative. Spent most of her session blaming everyone else. Me, her parents, the court, even her kids for rejecting her efforts. When the report landed in Patel's inbox, she called me after midnight. She's spiraling, she said. And she's doing it in front of witnesses. Good, I thought. Let the truth do what it does best, sit still while the lies unravel. 2 nights later, my doorbell rang at 1:14 a.m. I checked the camera feed. Her. Barefoot. smeared mascara, bottle in her hand. She just stood there, swaying slightly, staring at the door like it owed her something. She knocked. Once. Then harder. Then she started yelling. Not loud, but broken. You think you're better than me? You think the kids love you more? Then crying. I gave you everything. I gave you my youth. My body. My name. I didn't open the door. I called the cops. Quietly. Politely. Like a man who's done playing defense. They showed up in 12 minutes. Didn't arrest her. Just escorted her back to her car. One officer looked at me through the camera and said, "She needs help. Not your job to give it." He was right. Because my job wasn't to fix her. It was to protect them. After that, she disappeared again. No calls. No messages. Her family? Silent. Not a single one reached out. I guess even they started to smell the smoke. The next hearing was set for 30 days later. Final round. Custody, finances, the house, everything. And I walked into that courtroom with a binder in my hand. She walked in with a public defender. Let that sink in. The same woman who swore she'd destroy me now couldn't even afford the lawyer she used to brag about. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. But inside, I knew. This wasn't the fall. This was the landing. There was no audience in the courtroom that day. No gasps, no dramatic music. Just the shuffle of paper, the rustle of legal folders, and the steady tick of the wall clock counting down the last seconds of her narrative. She sat across from me, thinner than before, but still trying to hold that posture, shoulders straight, chin high, like she hadn't already lost. But it was in her eyes. That flat, stretched panic. The kind that only shows up when someone realizes they don't have another move left. Judge Kramer didn't waste time. He spoke in plain language. Clean. Clinical. But every word felt like a hammer driving nails into the coffin of her lies. In consideration of the evidence and the extensive pattern of behavior documented by the defendant, the court awards full legal and physical custody of the children to Mr. Reeves. She didn't move. The plaintiff will be granted supervised visitation once per week, subject to review after 6 months pending behavioral therapy and continued psychological evaluation. Still no movement. Spousal support is denied. Now her jaw twitched. The court also finds sufficient reason to question the plaintiff's financial representations and refers the matter to the Department of Revenue for review. That did it. Her whole face crumpled. No more mask. No more posing. And then came the final nail. Regarding the marital property, the primary residence is awarded to Mr. Reeves. The court finds that his contributions, financial and otherwise, far exceeded those of the plaintiff. Possession is effective immediately. I didn't react. Just nodded. Once. She didn't say a word. Just stared at the judge like she'd been shot in the chest and didn't realize she was bleeding yet. The bailiff called court adjourned. I stood, collected my folder, straightened my tie, and walked out. She didn't follow. Outside, Patel met me on the steps. "You're a free man," she said. "I'm a father," I corrected. She smiled. "Better." That night, I took the boys back to our home. Our home still smelled like lavender cleaner and fresh carpet from the final deep scrub the crew did. I'd had it prepped just in case. The walls were the same, but the silence? Different now. Safe. Solid. Ours. They ran to their rooms, shouting, cheering. My oldest turned back and shouted, "Dad, it feels bigger." "It's not," I said. "You are." Later, after they were asleep, I walked through every room, stopped in what used to be the guest room. Her old closet door was open. Empty. There was nothing left of her in this house. No perfume, no frame quotes, no smug morning after coffee stains on the kitchen marble. It was just wood and drywall and truth.